Chapter 2171. Training 3. Inside the academy, Qin Feng was walking alone. His face looked rather grim, and his skin had a purplish tinge to it. Endless waves of pain spread across his chest, and his face turned increasingly ghastly. Qin Feng. A voice rang out from behind Qin Feng. Qin Feng turned to see a familiar figure. Qin Xian. Qin Xian and Qin Feng were both from the Qin family. When Qin Feng had been famous, Qin Xian would tag along beside him all day long, ingratiating himself to him and following his lead. At that time, he could be considered Qin Feng's closest same-age friend. But after Qin Feng's powers declined, Qin Xian replaced him as the Qin family's upcoming star. He started to grow distant from Qin Feng. Qin Feng looked impassively at the smug-faced Qin Xian. The other teenagers besides Qin Xian all gazed at Qin Feng with disdain. On the contrary, they behaved deferentially toward Qin Xian. They looked exactly like how Qin Xian used to be when he once stood beside Qin Feng. Qin Feng, why didn't you attend faculty head Gus' lesson today? Qin Xian smiled at Qin Feng. Qin Feng's eyes flashed slightly at the mention of faculty head Gu. Then he looked away and started to leave without a single word. But Qin Xian had no intention of letting Qin Feng leave so easily. He lifted his leg to block his way in his icy gaze. Qin Xian smiled again. Qin Feng, faculty head Gu used to be your master. How can you disregard him in this way? That doesn't seem appropriate, right? Gu Wei was the faculty head of the internal cultivation faculty inside the Netherworld Academy. He was also the most respected elder in the Netherworld Academy when Qin Feng first joined the school. After Qin Feng enrolled in the Netherworld Academy, faculty head Gu took him under his wing as his direct disciple, carefully grooming him. A disciple and student were two different things. At that time, Qin Feng's future appeared limitless. But then Qin Feng's powers suddenly declined. No matter what method Gu Wei tried, he could not change Qin Feng's situation. It was a smear upon Gu Wei's reputation, and he gradually ignored Qin Feng completely. Qin Feng, it was a pity you didn't go for the lesson today. Another teenager beside Qin Xian piped up. Today, faculty head Gu officially took in Qin Xian as his personal disciple. Qin Feng's face stiffened slightly at his words. That's right. His own powers were declining while Qin Xian's cultivation level was increasing. It was only natural that Gu Wei no longer wanted him. Brother Feng is also faculty head Gus' disciple. In the future, we will be fellow disciples. Qin Xian smiled before pretending to suddenly realize he had said something wrong. He said with fake regret, Sorry, Brother Feng, I forgot. You're no longer faculty head Gus' disciple. The academy has assigned a new teacher to you. Excuse me. Qin Feng took a deep breath and turned to leave. This time Qin Xian didn't stop him. He just grinned at Qin Feng's departing profile. Brother Feng, faculty head Gu said that he wants me to participate in the inter-academy competition. Qin Xian suddenly spoke again. Qin Feng's footsteps wavered. The inter-academy competition. When Gu Wei first took him under his wing, it was because he wanted to groom him for the inter-academy competition. Now, he had changed his candidate to Qin Xian. Qin Feng quietly clenched his fists as he thought about his declining cultivation level. Chapter 2172. Training 4. Qin Xian smiled. He wanted to say something else, but a wailing teenager suddenly charged out from a nearby forest. The top half of his body was bare and flushed red. Nangong Lai, I curse you and all your ancestors. A frantic Lei Yin charged onto the main pathway. The bare top half of his body was covered in bruises. Those marks were not deep, just superficial scratches. However, there were many of them, densely covering his entire back and arms. It looked rather startling. Lei Yin, it's useless for you to curse me. Boss instructed me to do this. 100 lashes a day. Just endure it. Don't worry, I'm going very light on you. You won't suffer any internal injuries. Nangong Lai chased after Lei Yin with a whip. Now and then, he would lash out at Lei Yan's body, making loud, smacking noises. The two brats charged forward, one chasing after the other. Lei Yan desperately wished to kill Nangong Lai and all his ancestors. But his eyes suddenly hardened, and he came to a screeching halt. He nearly collided with Qin Feng. Qin Feng. Lei Yin saw the guy who was the cause of his misery over the past few days. He also noticed his grim expression, as if he would be lifting his hand to punch someone any moment now. Lei Yin instinctively took a step back as he stared vigilantly at Qin Feng. Qin Feng, we already agreed to fight again in 10 days. We still have 5 days to go. You cannot attack me before that. Lei Yin had been cultivating the sealed energy technique, and his head was already bloated. After being lashed and chased by Nangong Lai, it was not his fault that his mind was now frazzled and filled with a constant buzzing. He instinctively thought that Qin Feng was here to beat him up. Nangong Lai also halted on seeing Qin Feng. Meanwhile, Qin Xian had overheard everything that Lei Yin just said. "Oh, Brother Feng, you're going to duel with Lei Yin?" Qin Xian laughed. Lei Yin was notorious in the Netherworld Academy. Qin Feng frowned. He looked at the madcap, Lei Yin, with eyes filled with disdain. "It's not a duel. I just need to endure 10 moves from Qin Feng. Our boss said so. If he can defeat me within 10 moves, our boss will leave him alone in the future." Lei Yin spoke in a daze. He had no intention of dueling with Qin Feng for real. He still wanted to live. "I see." Qin Xian spoke in a meaningful tone. He looked at Qin Feng's back profile. "Brother Feng, I know you look down on the new teacher, but it's just a pity that faculty head who no longer wishes to teach you. I feel that you should just obediently comply with the academy's arrangements. After all, apart from the new teacher, who else would be willing to teach a student whose cultivation level is set on declining?" Qin Xian's words were like a hammer, smashing down on Qin Feng's chest. Yes, he was right. Since Qin Feng's powers declined, none of the teachers wanted to be implicated by his problem. All the teachers cared about was producing outstanding students so that they could bring glory upon themselves. At the very least, even if they couldn't produce exceptional students, they would still want to maintain their status quo. But Qin Feng was different. No matter how much effort they put into teaching him, Qin Feng's cultivation level continued to drop. This would only be a blemish on a teacher's reputation. As time passed, all the teachers in the Netherworld Academy started to ignore Qin Feng. Even when he was sitting in class, all the teachers would subconsciously forget about his presence. In the eyes of all the teachers, Qin Feng was now like a plague to be avoided at all costs. Chapter 2173. Training 5. Qin Feng remained silent and only fled the scene with a grim face. Qin Xian was delighted at the sight of Qin Feng's pathetic escape. Meanwhile, Lei Yin was being dragged away by Nangong Lai before he could understand what was happening. "What are you doing? You want to lash me again?" Lei Yin whined. Nangong Lai couldn't resist, rolling his eyes. "I have met stupid people, but I have never met someone as stupid as you. Be sure to pray harder for your match in 5 days." "What?" Lei Yin still didn't understand. Nangong Lai pointed at Qin Xian, who had already walked a distance away. "Don't you know who he is?" "No idea." "Who?" "Qin Xian," Nangong Lai replied. Lei Yin was taken aback. "Qin Xian? The prodigy from the internal cultivation faculty?" Nangong Lai nodded. "He is from the same family as Qin Feng, but they're not on good terms. Brother, I believe that you might be able to endure 10 moves, but now, I think you have no hope. Didn't you sense the tension between Qin Feng and Qin Xian earlier? And you foolishly went to tell Qin Xian all about the bet between you and Qin Feng. You were just asking for it, giving Qin Feng more reason to beat you up." It didn't take much for Nangong Lai to know that Qin Xian's earlier words were meant to provoke Qin Feng. It was already a rare feat that Qin Feng wasn't angered to death. At this moment, Lei Yin finally realized what a deplorable mistake he made. His face instantly fell. I didn't do it on purpose." His mind had been all fuzzy. How was he to know what he had been saying? Nangong Lai rolled his eyes again. "Say, do you think Qin Feng will have mercy on me if I apologize to him now?" Lei Yin asked. The corners of Nangong Lai's lips twitched. "What do you think?" Lei Yin felt like crying. "How about I bring a bunch of guys to beat up Qin Xian?" The moment he said it, Lei Yin immediately realized how foolish that was. What a joke. He couldn't even beat Qin Feng. How to beat up the even more powerful Qin Xian? His gang would probably flee like scared rabbits the moment they heard Qin Xian's name. Lei Yin was doomed. Within moments, news of the fight between Qin Feng and Lei Yin and everyone in the entire Netherworld Academy knew of it. Quite a number of them found it very amusing. No matter how much Qin Feng's powers declined, there was no way Lei Yin could manage him. And 10 moves. Qin Feng could probably settle Lei Yin with just one. But everyone had nothing better to do and wanted to see a good show. Especially those who were at odds with Lei Yin. They really wanted to see just how badly Lei Yin would be beaten up without the protection of the other Lei Tang family teenagers. Qin Feng is fighting Lei Yin. The eyebrows of an elder rose in surprise when he heard of the news. Standing by the side with a humble expression, Qin Xian nodded. I also heard the news of that. When I last saw Brother Feng, I tried to dissuade him from associating with people like Lei Yin, but humph. The elder snorted coldly. If he wishes to let himself go, no one can help him. Qin Xian, both you and Qin Feng are from the same Qin family. I don't wish to see you follow in his footsteps. Lei Yin didn't have a good reputation in the Netherworld Academy. Apart from his own people from the Lei Tang family, all the other students kept away from him. But Qin Feng was now mixing with a guy like him. It was lamentable. Qin Xian immediately answered, Master, don't worry. I will never let myself go like that. Chapter 2174. 10 Days. 1. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Qin Feng arrived promptly at the agreed time and location to find that Lei Yin was already there. Apart from Lei Yin, Yi Qingtang, Jing Zhe, and the rest were also already there. Qin Feng looks like he is in a bad mood today. Do you think he will take this opportunity to beat me to death? Lei Yin really felt like crying now, especially after he scanned the arena and realized that quite a number of other students had gathered nearby. The sight made him feel like breaking down into a blubbering heap. All his nemesis were present and accounted for. The Lei Tang family teenagers were also here. They were staring at Lei Yin in exasperation. Qin Feng's powers might have declined, but he was still at the Paragon 8th Heaven level. Within the Netherworld Academy, he was still considered at least above average. Meanwhile, Lei Yin was a subpar piece of garbage. But he still dared to challenge Qin Feng? 10 moves? What a joke. A disparity of 2 whole levels. That alone was enough to completely subdue Lei Yin. I feel a bit dizzy. Boss, what should I do? Lei Yin usually put on a swaggering front, but inwardly, he knew very well that he could not defeat anyone. Now seeing the cool-faced Qin Feng, and thinking of his stupid actions a few days ago, he was suddenly worried that he would die here today. Yi Qingtang was full of disdain at the sight of the whimpering Lei Yin. Wipe the snot from your nose. Lei Yin sniffled. Just do exactly what I told you earlier, Yi Qingtang instructed. Lei Yin recalled Yi Qing's earlier instructions. A wave of fear washed over his heart. Taking a deep breath, he finally walked forward. The spectators' excitement and curiosity surged at the sight of Lei Yin stepping forward. Seriously? Is Lei Yin going for real this time? Is he really going to fight against Qin Feng? Does he have a death wish? Lei Yin has always been a fool, but I find it strange that Qin Feng is involved in this. He knows Lei Yin is no match for him. Why did he agree to fight Lei Yin? Do you think he is still the Qin Feng of before? His powers have declined tremendously. By now, he might not even be able to defeat Lei Yin. TSK, a former prodigy, has fallen so far. Some of the spectators had come to see Lei Yin make a fool of himself. The others had come to witness Qin Feng's fall. This bunch of teenagers was full of youth and vigor. They were naturally drawn to anything that could offer some excitement and entertainment. Lei Yin was already used to the mockery of outsiders. He was now fully focused on Qin Feng. But Qin Feng's eyes dimmed when he heard those mocking words. He would remain a laughingstock no matter the outcome of this fight. Qin Feng glanced at Yi Qing, who was standing by the side. His slight frown revealed his displeasure. Qin Feng, 10 moves. Just 10 moves, all right. Lei Yin stood in front of Qin Feng. He was very worried that Qin Feng might take the opportunity to sneak in a few more attacks. Qin Feng had already lost his patience. Both Lei Yin and Teacher Yi were like clowns to him. He had enough of them. Let's go. Qin Feng snapped coldly. Lei Yin quietly swallowed and nodded. Qin Feng struck out in the very next second, startling Lei Yin. A powerful light engulfed Qin Feng as if he was immersed in a holy light. The spectators were stunned by the sight of Qin Feng enveloped in the holy light. Light stream. Lei Yin is using his killer move right from the start. Lei Yin is doomed. Light stream was one of the Qin family's elite moves. Chapter 2175. 10 Days, 2. Lei Yin was dumbstruck. He never imagined that Qin Feng would launch such a major move right from start. Brother, why so much hate? We can always talk things through. Seeing the holy light about to make contact with him, Lei Yin recalled Yi Qing's earlier instructions. Taking a deep breath, his body swelled up like a ball. What is this technique of Lei Yan's? The crowd was taken aback by Lei Yan's sudden inflation. Even more shocking was that the moment Lei Yan's body ballooned up to the maximum, the breath he had been holding was suddenly unleashed. A hurricane-like cold wind radiated from the bottom of his feet as Lei Yin exhaled. The cold air immediately enveloped Lei Yin. Boom! A loud boom, and dust flew everywhere. Qin Feng's attack created a mass of smoke and fog, such that no one could see Lei Yin at all. Qin Feng remained expressionless. The fight was over. Just as Qin Feng was preparing to turn and leave, a gasp rippled across the crowd of spectators. Somewhat dubious, Qin Feng instinctively turned, and was dumbstruck by what he saw. Lei Yin was covered in a thick layer of ice. The ice completely enveloped Lei Yin, as if he was encased inside a huge block of ice. And Qin Feng's earlier attack had landed on that ice. Multiple shards of ice were scattered on the ground, but Lei Yin was completely unharmed. Qin Feng. The spectators were all dumbfounded. Damn, what technique is that? What did Lei Yin do? Shameless, too shameless. I thought Lei Yin had become so bold as to challenge Qin Feng. I didn't expect utterly shameless. I've really got to give it to him. The spectators snapped out of their daze. The rule of this fight was that Lei Yin would win if he could endure 10 moves from Qin Feng. Now Lei Yin was hiding inside a big block of ice. How would Qin Feng be able to hit him? They have met shameless people before, but have never met a person that's shameless. Come out and fight if you got the guts. At this moment, Lei Yin was just hiding inside the ice. He could see what was happening outside, but couldn't hear the words of the spectators. Qin Feng's face darkened. He never imagined that Lei Yin had such a move. The crowd's discussion became increasingly heated. Even Qin Xian, who had come to watch the fight, was also stunned. But he smiled on seeing Qin Feng's grim face. Brother Feng, it's just a block of ice. Just shatter it. It shouldn't be that difficult for you, right? Qin Xian's casual voice drifted into Qin Feng's ears. Qin Feng took a deep breath. This farce seemed to have brought all his long-suppressed feelings to the fore. He was like a clown. Everything he did was a joke to others. His gaze subconsciously drifted over to Yi Qing. He couldn't understand what this teacher Yi was trying to do. He just wanted this to end as soon as possible. Qin Feng took another deep breath and his aura surged. He suddenly unleashed all the power in his body toward Lei Yin. Cracking sounds filled the air as Qin Feng executed a number of consecutive attacks at the ice. Layers of shattered ice flew in all directions. At the sight of the endless stream of shattered ice, Nangong Lai scurried over to Yi Qingtang's side. Boss, can Lei Yin really withstand 10 moves from Qin Feng? Chapter 2176. 10 Days, 3. Yi Qingtang crossed her arms over her chest, watching the fight in a relaxed manner. Make a guess. Nangong Lai. If he could guess, would he have asked? When Yi Qing suggested for Lei Yin to use the ice-sealing power as a defense, Nangong Lai had thought she must be mad. How could a mere layer of ice defend against Qin Feng's powerful attacks? The ice would probably shatter after just a couple of attacks. How could Lei Yin win? But Nangong Lai soon realized something was not quite right. Qin Feng had already launched 3 attacks, and the floor was covered in shattered ice shards. But the layer of ice surrounding Lei Yin appeared just as thick as before. It was like the ice layer was thickening continuously. At this point, Qin Feng's aura was in slight disarray. The ice layer appeared endless. His bet with Yi Qing was 10 moves. As long as Lei Yin could hold on for 10 moves, he would lose. If he didn't attack, he would also end up losing. Qin Feng suddenly realized that he had walked into a trap set up by Yi Qing. There was no need for Lei Yin to counterattack at all. As long as he protected himself and held against the attacks, he would win. As Qin Feng continued to attack, Lei Yin remained unharmed inside the layer of ice. The spectators thought they could witness Lei Yan's demise, but after watching for some time, they realized Lei Yan's tactic was truly disgusting. This was a boring fight with no exchange of moves at all. They were just watching Qin Feng hack away at a block of ice. The corners of the lips of Lei Yan's nemesis twitched as they watched. They had never seen Lei Yin so shameless before. Thinking that they wouldn't be able to see Lei Yin getting beaten up today, quite a number of people left in disgust. Qin Feng looked increasingly grave. He had only 2 moves left, and all 10 moves would have been used up. But he had yet to even touch the corner of Lei Yan's shirt. Qin Feng glanced over the thinned-out crowd and noticed Qin Xian out of the corner of his eye. He saw very clearly the scorn on Qin Xian's face. A Paragon 8 heaven-level practitioner was being made a fool by a 6th heaven level. What a disgrace. The noisy crowd gradually dispersed. Qin Feng remained standing there, the surrounding temperature decreased by the pile of ice shards on the ground. The ice shards on him had already melted into bone-chilling ice water, slowly freezing his initial fervor. In the end, Qin Feng stopped attacking, observing the layer of ice around Lei Yin, which was still as thick as before. Qin Feng realized he had already lost this match. He would never be able to shatter the ice layer and make contact with Lei Yin in just 2 more moves. A darkening aura of depression enveloped Qin Feng. He could not understand what that ice layer was. How was it able to let Lei Yin endure consecutive attacks by someone who was 2 levels higher than him? A major sense of failure filled his heart. Qin Feng gave a slightly bitter smile. He then turned to look at Yi Qing. I have lost. He had no idea how to handle Lei Yin. Didn't you say that you are 2 levels higher than Lei Yin and can easily defeat him? Yi Qing looked at Qin Feng, who for the first time displayed his anguish on his face. Yes, Qin Feng replied. Power is important, but brains are just as important. Yi Qing glanced at Lei Yin and stepped forward to stand beside the ice-encased teenager. Qin Feng did not know what Yi Qing was about to do. He only watched with a furrowed brow. Chapter 2177. Gathered 1. Yi Qing walked over to the ice. Taking out a matchstick, he lit it before placing it on top of the ice. The ice started melting under the high temperature of the fire. He stepped back, and after a while, the ice completely melted into water. Like that, he easily resolved it without using any spirit energy or any moves. Lei Yin couldn't hear the sounds outside, and when he saw that Yi Qing had melted his life-saving ice, he screamed, Boss, what are you doing? It's only 8 moves. There are 2 more moves. Lei Yin ran away to stand as far as possible from Yi Qing. He thought that Yi Qing had counted wrongly. Qin Feng, this is not counted. Boss did this. Wait for me. I'll freeze myself again before I take the remaining 2 moves. Lei Yin puffed his cheeks up, preparing to freeze himself again. Before Yi Qing could do anything, Lei Yin froze himself again. She was speechless. This brat clearly had no brain. You used only fire to melt the glacier? Qin Feng questioned Yi Qing with knitted brows. That seemed impossible. If you're not convinced, use a matchstick and try it out for yourself, Yi Qing replied. Qin Feng was skeptical, but he walked over to Lei Yin and lit a matchstick. The glacier started melting when it came into contact with the fire. Lei Yin was shocked. Qin Feng, you're shameless. How could you copy boss? After being scolded by the aggrieved Lei Yin, Qin Feng was speechless. Boss, This fellow has found a way to counter me. Teach me 2 more moves. Lei Yan hollered. Boss method was pretty useful. There's no need for that. Yi Qing sighed. She had to find some way to improve his intelligence. If not, he'll probably die because of his stupidity. Lei Yan was confused. You're indeed more powerful than Lei Yan, but it's precisely because of the power disparity that made you too reliant on your power. Yi Qingtang was honest with Qin Feng. It was impossible for her to train the foolish Lei Yan to become skillful enough to confront Qin Feng with 10 moves in just 10 days. However, that didn't mean that she couldn't train Lei Yan just enough to just take in 10 moves from Qin Feng. Qin Feng was overconfident. He only knew how to attack without carefully thinking about it when Lei Yan used such unorthodox methods. Yi Qingtang had extensive experience in battling those who were stronger than her in her previous lifetime. No one knew better than her that tactfulness was critical in battling stronger opponents. Psychological warfare was critical as well. Qin Feng kept quiet for a moment. Teacher Yi, they'll go to class tomorrow. It didn't feel good to lose, but Qin Feng realized some problems over this process. He didn't resonate with Yi Qing's little antics. However, he would still stick to his promise and attend Yi Qing's lessons. Anyway, he wouldn't be able to stay in the Netherworld Academy any longer. It didn't matter after all. Qin Feng turned around to leave right after saying those words. He left before Lei Yan could even process everything. He scratched his head and asked, "Boss, what happened? You just admitted defeat like that? He's scared that your brains will turn bad if you continue freezing yourself." Yi Qing replied. He was already this dumb. If he continued, wouldn't he truly become a fool? Lei Yan. When did Qin Feng become this thoughtful? Chapter 2178. Gathered 2. The next morning, Jingzhe arrived at the classroom early and was surprised when he spotted Figure. Before Jingzhe could say anything, Yi Qing walked into the classroom. When Yi Qingtang saw the figure, she was stunned. Nangong Lai and Lei Yan, who followed behind her, had the same reaction. Yun Shun, Nangong Lai was stupefied. Wasn't that Yun Shun who suddenly appeared in the classroom? What was going on? Nangong Lai and Lei Yan exchanged glances, and they were both perplexed. Wasn't it Qin Feng who lost yesterday? Why? Why did Yun Shun come instead? Yin Shun, why did you come? Nangong Lai was acquaintances with Yin Shun, so he spoke up. Yin Shun smiled at Nangong Lai before he took a chair and sat down, looking at Yi Qingtang casually. Nangong Lai, hey, what happened? Why does it seem like he's coming back? I clearly remember that it should be Qin Feng who's supposed to turn up today. Lei Yan was confused. Yin Shun was now part of the medical faculty. He should be spending time on elixirs. Why did he come? Who knows? Nangong Lai was also confused. He tried to convince Yin Shun to come previously, and Yin Shun only gave him a smile without planning to come. But now what happened? Could it be that Yin Shun had posed as Qin Feng to challenge me yesterday? Is that why he's here today instead of Qin Feng? Lei Yan guessed. Nangong Lai subconsciously walked away. Stupidity was contagious. Lei Yan didn't appear to notice and was still immersed in his wild guesses. Yin Shun is part of the medical faculty. It's not entirely impossible for him to create an elixir that would help him disguise as someone else. Could it be that Qin Feng didn't want to challenge me, so he got Yin Shun to pose as himself? Yin Shun is such a poor thing. He couldn't say no to Qin Feng and had to. Lei Yan was even more convinced now. He was completely unaware that Nangong Lai and Jingzhe were judging him, as if they were looking at a fool. I'm not that lame. A cold, unfeeling voice came from Lei Yan's back. Lei Yan was stunned, taking 2 steps back when he realized Qin Feng suddenly appeared behind him. Lei Yan. As Qin Feng looked at Lei Yan, he couldn't help but feel that challenging a fool like Lei Yan was forever a part of his dark past. Teacher Yi. Qin Feng didn't want to talk to Lei Yan anymore. Once he saw Yi Qing, he found a seat near Yi Qing and sat down. Is this a package deal? Nangong Lai touched his chin. He felt that Yun Shin's appearance today has got something to do with Qin Feng and Lei Yan's fight yesterday. Was Yun Shun also there yesterday? Though Yun Shun wasn't the most powerful out of the bunch, he was extremely intelligent. There must be a reason behind his sudden appearance today. Soon after, Mu Xing also arrived. She hadn't noticed that there were two more people in the classroom and just found a seat that was nearest to Yi Qing and sat down, behaving well. Yi Qingtang looked at the six who were finally gathered together, and her eyes crinkled into a smile. Great, they were finally gathered. Chapter 2179. Gathered 3. As usual, Yi Qingtang had Qin Feng and Yun Shun tell her about the cultivation techniques which they had practiced before. Yun Shin's cultivation techniques were more or less normal. When Qin Feng spouted out a whole list of high-level techniques, all the other teenagers were completely stunned. Damn, is Qin Feng some kind of freak? He is still so young, but has already practiced those techniques? Just hearing the list of Qin Feng's techniques was enough to make Lei Yin feel like kneeling on the floor and kowtowing. Those techniques were extremely profound, and he had tried a couple before. But he was unable to comprehend a single thing and ended up giving up. But Qin Feng had practiced those techniques to at least the 5th level. Nangong crossed his hands behind his head. You are right. Qin Feng was already famous before entering the Netherworld Academy. If not for the fact that his powers suddenly regressed, he would probably be at least at the Divine Lord stage. Those at the Divine Lord level were all famously powerful practitioners, and Qin Feng was still in his teens. In the entire Netherworld Academy, the number of people who could reach the Divine Lord level before the age of 20 could be counted on one hand. Apart from those freaks ranked in the top 10, no one else would even dare to dream of such an achievement. Lei Yin gasped at Nangong Lai's words, but on second thought, he asked quietly, why did Qin Feng's powers suddenly regress? Nangong Lai shrugged. No one knows. The president personally checked him over, but didn't find anything strange. His powers just kept declining. He is only at the Paragon 8 heaven level now. I think that it is still regressing. The continuous decline of a person's powers was a very strange problem. Yi Qingtang did not discover anything weird in Qin Feng's practice methods, so it appeared that the problem lay with himself. She called Qin Feng over to her side and made use of her deity Ocean to probe his body condition. Qin Feng's physical condition looked rather normal, but when Yi Qingtang used the power of her deity Ocean to analyze his body, she discovered that he had hidden chaotic energy inside him, which was constantly diluting his own spirit energy. Chaotic mental demon. Yi Qingtang was stunned. Qin Feng looked at Yi Qingtang with confusion. Yi Qingtang furrowed her brows slightly. There were countless young, talented prodigies in the world, but few of those who became famous when they were young would eventually develop to become truly elite, powerful practitioners. The reason was because many of those talented teenagers would develop a terrifying type of mental demon after reaching a certain stage. These mental demons were undetectable. It was only 200 years later that a certain mighty practitioner discovered the existence of these deeply hidden mental demons. The symptoms of chaotic mental demons varied from person to person. Some went completely mad. Some ended up destroying their energy channels and becoming paralyzed. Qin Feng's situation appeared to be the second type. And all practitioners who developed chaotic mental demons had a common point. Their bloodlines were very aggressive and ferocious. For example, the Zhang family's heavenly demon bloodline also had a certain chance of developing chaotic mental demons. If Yi Qingtang remembered correctly, the Qin family's bloodline was called the Killer Bloodline. The Killer Bloodline had a very high ferocity. There were already a number of prodigies in the Qin family who, during their prime, suddenly lost their senses and went into a murderous rampage, attacking even their own kin. Chapter 2180. Gardener 1. Unless there were some other external factors, it was probably because those people had developed chaotic mental demons. But those incidents became increasingly rare, and Qin Feng was probably the first person in the Qin family over the past 10,000 years to have developed chaotic mental demons. In present times, chaotic mental demons were like a nightmare that one could never wake up from. Once it developed, no matter how powerful the practitioner was, he would be ruined. But 300 years into the future, This was no longer a difficult problem. Qin Feng. Yi Qing looked at him. Qin Feng turned toward Yi Qing. He had no idea what chaotic mental demons were, but he didn't harbor any high hopes for this teacher. He was just fulfilling his promise and passing the time. I will set aside an area outside the classroom for you, Yi Qing said. By the side, Nangong Lai and Lei Yin pricked up their ears. Wah! To think that boss held this kid in such high regard, immediately setting aside a special cultivation area just for him. Qin Feng was unimpressed by Yi Qing's special treatment. He just gave a bitter smile. He was the most powerful person in this group. As the teacher, it was only natural that she would hold him in high regard. It was a pity that she was just wasting her efforts. His powers would continue to decline. A prodigy since young, Qin Feng was already used to preferential treatment from adults. Just as everyone believed that Yi Qing was showing favoritism toward Qin Feng, she suddenly took out a cloth bag from her space ring and placed it in Qin Feng's hand. Lei Yin and Nangong Lai felt extremely jealous. A special cultivation area? Fine. But now, boss was giving him a treasure, right in front of everyone? This was so inappropriate. Jealous. Qin Feng glanced at the cloth bag in his hand, and then dubiously at Yi Qing. Teacher Yi, you don't need to waste any effort on me. It would be better if you take this treasure back. Qin Feng spoke nonchalantly. Teachers were indeed all the same. Treasure. Yi Qing was taken aback. Qin Feng glanced at the cloth bag in his hand. Holding her forehead, Yi Qing said, Open it and take a look. Qin Feng opened it. Nangong Lai and Lei Yin stretched out their necks, trying to take a look too. When the bag was opened, there was no treasure to be seen at all. It was just a bag full of round seeds. Qin Feng was stunned. I think you have misunderstood. These are flower seeds. I want you to plant these seeds in the area that I will set aside for you. Yi Qing spoke calmly. Qin Feng, plant seeds? Him. Nangong Lai and Lei Yin nearly burst out laughing. Formidable. Boss, we get you. Boss must have felt that this Qin Feng was too arrogant, and so to punish him, he was being made a gardener. The corners of Qin Feng's lips twitched, but in the end, he didn't say anything. With a bitter smile, he took the seeds. Anyway, he was just passing time. Whatever. As he said he would, Yi Qing lifted her hand and cleared an open space in the forest outside the classroom for Qin Feng. Qin Feng put away his sword and picked up a hoe. As Nangong Lai and the others attended lessons in the classroom, Qin Feng quietly planted the seeds outside. Lei Yin felt rather pained at the sight. Brother, I really couldn't tell that our boss is so petty, torturing Qin Feng like this just because Qin Feng was unwilling to attend his lessons. Planting seeds. Is this really something that young masters should do? Chapter 2181. Medicine Faculty 1. Yi Qingtang left first after settling Lei Yin and the rest. The others were easy to manage. They would be fine as long as she could find suitable cultivation methods for them. Yin Shan was the exception. Yin Shan was from a medicine faculty and specialized in refining medicine and elixirs. Yi Qingtang had always been a loner in her previous life. She was being hunted and she didn't have much money on her. As a result, she didn't dare to venture into crowded areas, and she would refine most of the elixir she needed. On top of that, she had always wanted to restore her spirit root, and so spent a lot of time and effort on medicine cultivation. If it was just about giving pointers on cultivating medicines, Yi Qingtang would not have any problems with that. But Yin Shen's case was more special. As a result of his bloodline, his success rate at cultivating medicines was extremely low. Yi Qingtang had to find other ways to resolve this. The cultivation of medicines was also one of the categories in the Inter-Academy competition. Yi Qingtang only had 6 students. To get that wind-calming pearl, she would not give up on either one of them. Half a day later, Yi Qingtang finally came up with a solution. Yin Shen's problem lay in his bloodline. They just had to make his bloodline go temporarily dormant when he was cultivating medicines. This method sounded fantastical. But Yi Qingtang knew of the existence of such an elixir from her previous life. However, the process to refine that elixir was rather complicated, and Yi Qingtang didn't have an elixir refining tripod. She set her sights on the medicine faculty. The medicine faculty had many tools for refining elixirs. As a teacher of the Netherworld Academy, it should not be difficult for Yi Qingtang to borrow an alchemy lab. At this thought, Yi Qingtang hurried over to the medicine faculty. Just as Yi Qingtang was prepared to find a medicine faculty teacher to negotiate the use of a lab, she inadvertently discovered a few familiar figures there. What do you mean by that? Can't we come to the medicine faculty? Lei Yan's loud shouts drifted over to Yi Qingtang's ears. Yi Qingtang glanced over and saw that Lei Yan and the rest, who were supposed to be practicing in the classroom, had all appeared in the medicine faculty. Apart from Qin Feng, who was diligently planting seeds, all the other 5 students were present and accounted for. At this moment, Lei Yan and the rest were arguing over something with a few teenagers from the medicine faculty. Brother, don't be so distant. We just want to make friends. Look, our academy has always encouraged students from the other faculties to establish good ties with the medicine faculty, right? Give us the elixirs you have refined, and we will return the favor in the future. Nangong Lai smiled. The medicine faculty students all specialized in medicine cultivation. Although they were only students now, they would become full-fledged alchemists after leaving the Netherworld Academy. Alchemists were highly respected positions in all domains. They might not be very powerful, but they could refine all sorts of highly sought-after elixirs. The more skilled an alchemist was, the more powerful practitioners he would have on his side. To obtain high-quality elixirs, those powerful practitioners were more than happy to protect those alchemists. This unspoken rule was also present in the Netherworld Academy. Most of the students here would try their best to establish good relations with the medicine faculty students. Although those teenagers were just students now, to be able to enter a prestigious school like the Netherworld Academy, every single one of them was exceptionally talented in medicine cultivation. Chapter 2182, Medicine Faculty 2. Even now, as students, every single one of them will be considered pretty good alchemists outside of the academy. The students from the other faculties would naturally be able to obtain more elixirs to help in their cultivation if they could become friends with these teenagers. Lei Yin and the rest have been negligent in this aspect, as they were already prepared to be kicked out of the school. The notion of making friends with the medicine faculty students did not even cross their minds. But the appearance of Yi Qingtang had given them hope. At Yin Shen's reminder, the entire group had rushed over to the medicine faculty to see if they could find a few students to secure a good future supply of elixirs. It was a reasonable plan, but a pity things did not always go according to plan. After searching for some time, none of the medicine faculty students were willing to partner with them. Those medicine faculty students were no fools. They had limited elixirs on hand and would naturally wish to supply students who had a brighter future ahead of them. As for Lei Yin and his gang, they did not meet their criteria. There had long been rumors circulating the Netherworld Academy about how these people would be kicked out soon. The Academy had already designated them as hopeless, and it was only natural that the medicine faculty students would not want to waste their elixirs on this group. Aren't you guys with Yin Shun? Just get Yin Shun to refine some elixirs if you need them. One of the medicine faculty teenagers spoke up impatiently. He looked at Lei Yin and his gang like they were just a swarm of pesky flies. A bunch of jokers like them wanted to ally with the medicine faculty students. Only a fool would give them elixirs. Lei Yin and the rest were taken aback by the teenager's words. They glanced at Yin Shun. Yin Shun maintained his smile. Yes, you guys have Yin Shun, right? Why are you looking for others? Moreover, apart from him, do you think anyone here would give you elixirs? Another teenager added rudely. Nangong Lai had been speaking in a cordial manner, but his face now darkened at the words of those two teenagers. He had known Yin Shun from before. They had entered the Netherworld Academy at the same time and used to belong to the martial arts faculty together. But because of Yin Shun's weak physical condition, he had been transferred to the medicine faculty. However, Yin Shen's situation at the medicine faculty was not without its difficulties. His drifting cloud bloodline drastically reduced the success rate of his medicine cultivation, and as a result, he was completely unable to supply others. These two were both from the medicine faculty. How could they not know about Yin Chen's situation? They had purposely singled out Yin Chen just to make him look bad. Don't give us any if you don't want to. Do you think we were that desperate for it? Nangong Lai put up a brave front. Even if you were desperate for it, no one will give it to you. I advise you not to waste any more time here. The medicine faculty teenagers smirked before turning to leave. Lei Yin wanted to say something else, but Nangong Lai stopped him. Don't waste your breath. Can't you tell they look down on us? The medicine faculty teenagers would only give out elixirs to those whom they deemed worthy, and this bunch had been deemed unworthy by those teenagers. Lei Yin had come to the medicine faculty full of hope and expectations. But now, having failed to ally and even endured the ridicule of others, his face looked very grim. Just as they turned to leave, they bumped into a slender figure. Chapter 2183. Medicine Faculty 3 Boss. Lei Yin stared in shock at Yi Qing, who suddenly popped up behind them. When did Boss arrive? Nangong Lai and the rest were also startled by the sight of Yi Qing. They had no idea when he had appeared and whether he heard the cold mockery of those two teenagers. Having been caught in this independent mission, they couldn't help shifting their gaze guiltily. Yi Qingtang gazed at Lei Yin and his gang without any expression. Having been forcibly dragged over, Jing Zhe and Mu Xing also lowered their heads the moment they saw Yi Qing. What are you all doing here? Yi Qingtang surveyed her surroundings. The group exchanged looks, but none of them dared to answer. If Boss knew that they had made the independent decision to come here and try to form an alliance with the medicine faculty students, and ended up being sneered at, they would probably be dead meat. Oh, Boss, nothing much. Yinshin wanted to get something from the medicine faculty, and so we came along with him. Nangong Lai had the quickest mind, and he didn't know how much Yi Qing overheard, so he made up an excuse on the spot. Would Yi Qing not know what they were actually doing? Nevertheless, inwardly, Yi Qingtang felt like laughing at the sight of those nervous-looking teenagers. Apart from Mu Xing, the other teenagers were actually older than Yi Qingtang. She felt rather amused by how fearful they were of her. If this bunch of brats knew that they were slightly older than her, would they still be willing to call her boss? Boss, why are you at the medicine faculty? Nangong Lai hastily asked. He saw that Yi Qing didn't respond and thought that they had managed to squirm their way through. I want to borrow the use of an alchemy lab, Yi Qingtang answered. Everyone was shocked at Yi Qing's words. The teenagers immediately thought of the only medicine faculty student in their group, Yin Shun. Yi Qing had made arrangements for all of them, except for Yin Shun. They thought that he had forgotten about him. They didn't realize that he hadn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so quickly come here to help Yin Shun borrow a lab. Yi Qingtang ignored the curious gazes of those teenagers and looked straight at Yin Shun. Bring me to the teacher in charge of the alchemy labs. Yin Shun glanced at Yi Qing as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, he just nodded in silence and led the way. Originally, Yin Chun wanted to tell Yi Qing that he had his own alchemy lab, albeit the lowest grade one. Nevertheless, he did not have to do all this for him. After all, with his situation, even the best lab would be useless in enhancing the success rate of his medicine cultivation. But looking at Yi Qing's serious expression, Yin Shun ended up swallowing his words. Alchemy labs could be categorized into different grades. The higher the grade, the better one's medicine cultivation would be. Most students used low-grade student labs. If one had sufficient talent, they could apply to have a mid-grade alchemy lab. Teachers typically had the use of the rare high-grade alchemy labs. Most students were not allowed to set a single foot inside. It was rumored that there was a grand master-level lab inside the medicine faculty. It was prepared for an alchemist grandmaster, as the Netherworld Academy had once produced an alchemist grandmaster. Chapter 2184. Medicine Faculty 4. That alchemist was not very powerful, but no one in the second domain would dare to offend him. The Grand Master level elixirs that he could refine were the most sought-after treasures by all practitioners. Many factions and powerful practitioners spent a lot of effort to draw this alchemist to their side. It was said that countless practitioners in the second domain would be more than willing to do his bidding. Yin Shun explained the situation of the alchemy labs, providing Yi Qingtang with a general idea. As she was now a teacher, she wondered if she could get a high-grade alchemy lab. With Yi Qingtang's medicine cultivation skills, the boost offered by a higher-grade lab would be insignificant. Nevertheless, the higher the better. Yin Shin soon led Yi Qing and the rest of the teacher in charge of the alchemy labs. The man was an elder in his 60s. He had a snow-white beard and a face full of wrinkles. He looked very stern. There were a bunch of medicine faculty students standing beside him. Every month, the medicine faculty students would bring their best elixirs over here to be graded by this teacher. If the elixir was good enough, they could apply for a better grade alchemy lab. The teenagers whom Lei Yin and the others were speaking to earlier were also in the group. Teacher Feng. Yin Shan made his way through the crowd and bowed politely. Teacher Feng lifted his head slightly and glanced at Yin Shan. After realizing it was Yin Shan, he gave a slight frown and said, "Yin Shan, you should know your situation." Teacher Feng's tone was mild, but the meaning behind his words was clear. With Yun Shin's medicine cultivation abilities, he really shouldn't be here. It was already a charity to let him have the use of a low-grade alchemy lab. Bitter amusement flashed across Yun Shin's eyes, but he put on a politely genial smile. "Teacher Feng, I am here today because of my teacher. Teacher Yi wishes to see you." All the medicine faculty teenagers instinctively glanced over. Teacher Feng also raised his eyes again and looked past Yin Shun to see the ordinary-looking, skinny youth. "Teacher Yi." Teacher Feng's voice was low. Yi Qingtang stepped forward. "I am Yi Qing. I wish to apply for a teacher alchemy lab." Yin Shun was stunned by Yi Qing's words. He thought that Yi Qing would just try to help him get a mid-grade alchemy lab. But he never expected Yi Qing to immediately ask for a high-grade alchemy lab meant for teachers. Lei Yin and the rest were also shocked. Lei Yin tugged at Nangong Lai's sleeve. "Our boss is so open-handed. He is requesting a high-grade alchemy lab for Yun Shun right from the get-go." Nangong Lai was not as optimistic as Lei Yin. Teacher Feng frowned slightly. He sized up Yi Qingtang and said, "Only teachers from the medicine faculty can use teacher alchemy labs." "Teacher Yi looks very unfamiliar to me. You don't look like one of the medicine faculty members." Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Was that the case? From what she had heard, she only knew that high-grade alchemy labs were meant for teachers. She didn't know that there was a distinction between the teachers of the different faculties. Chapter 2185, Medicine Faculty 5. "I am not a teacher at the medicine faculty," Yi Qingtang admitted. Teacher Feng showed no surprise. He glanced at Yin Shun again. "I heard that Yin Shun has been assigned to a new teacher. I wonder if you are the one?" "Yes." Yi Qingtang nodded. Teacher Feng nodded. The other medicine faculty students watched the scene with glittery eyes, all expecting to watch a good show. Yi Qing was not a teacher from the medicine faculty and had no use for an alchemy lab. Anyone could guess that she was asking for an alchemy lab for Yun Shun. "Teacher Yi, you just joined the Netherworld Academy and probably don't understand much of our medicine faculty procedures. Every student here has their own alchemy lab. Even though you are Yin Shin's teacher, you're not part of the medicine faculty." Also, Teacher Feng glanced at Yin Shun. "With Yin Shin's abilities, it is already considered generous of us to let him have the use of a low-grade alchemy lab. There was not even a need to consider anything else. He didn't have the right to apply for them." Teacher Feng's words were still considered rather polite, but his disregard for Yun Shan was evident in his voice. Around him, the medicine faculty students secretly smiled. What the hell? Has this Yin Shan gone stupid? He thought that he could apply for a better alchemy lab just because he got a new teacher? Never mind. Even if we give him a Grand Master level alchemy lab, what can he produce? Even my 10-year-old younger brother can produce better elixirs than him. It is just a waste of our faculty resources to let him stay here. I heard that Yun Shun will be kicked out of the academy soon. Why all this fuss now? He should know his place. The teenagers whispered to each other. They stared at Yun Shun with maliciousness. Yun Shun was a smear on the name of the medicine faculty. The Netherworld Academy medicine faculty had once produced a grandmaster alchemist. But with Yun Qin's abilities, even a medicine cultivation student from a normal academy was better than him. His presence here was just a smear upon their reputation. Yun Qin maintained a smile, as if he didn't hear their mocking words. But Yi Qingtang saw and heard everything. A frown was on her face. Teacher Feng, I think you misunderstand. Teacher Feng, oh. Yi Qingtang continued. I am the one who wants to use the alchemy lab, not Yin Shun. Teacher Feng and the rest were all stunned by Yi Qing's words. Why do you need an alchemy lab? Teacher Feng asked. To refine medicine, of course, Yi Qing replied. Teacher Feng. At this, even Lei Yin and his gang were shocked. What did they hear? Boss wanted to refine medicine? What kind of joke was this? Yin Shen looked at Yi Qing with astonishment. He really couldn't imagine this teacher refining medicines. Teacher Feng was stunned for quite a long while before he finally snapped out of it. Teacher Yi, are you joking? You want to refine medicine? Yes. Is there a problem with that? Yi Qing asked. The corners of Teacher Feng's lips twitched slightly. Problem? A big problem. Where did this fellow come from, requesting for an alchemy lab from the medicine faculty? Did this teacher think that making medicines was like rolling balls of dirt? What a farce. Chapter 2186. Alchemy 1. Teacher Feng's expression was awful. He simply couldn't understand why this newcomer, Teacher Yi, tried so hard to get hold of an alchemy lab for Yunshan without even knowing much about him. But now, he could tell that the new teacher was completely oblivious and had no self-awareness. You're not part of the medicine faculty. Pardon me for not being able to lend you the alchemy lab. Refining elixirs? He probably couldn't even differentiate the herbs. Teacher Feng, can I let Teacher Feng use my alchemy lab? Yinshan asked. Yinshan also didn't know why Yi Qing suddenly had the idea of refining elixirs, but since he was his teacher, he couldn't just stand by and allow him to be embarrassed in front of everyone. Teacher Feng's brows knitted. The alchemy lab was allocated to you, so it's your decision to make. However, I have to remind you that the medicine faculty allocates a limited amount of herbs to every student. You'll have to find ways to replenish it if they run out. The elixirs refined by you in the past month did not even satisfy the lowest standards set by the medicine faculty. You'll have to consider carefully whether you can refine enough elixirs this month before you listen to just anyone and waste the herbs. Teacher Feng made himself clear. He wasn't going to stop Yin Shun from lending others the alchemy lab, but they wouldn't give out any more herbs other than the ones allocated to Yin Shun. If Yi Qing wanted to have the herbs, he would have to take them from Yin Shen's quota or purchase them on his own. For a teacher not belonging to the medicine faculty to want to refine elixirs, it sounded like a joke to Teacher Feng. How different would it be from a male wanting to give birth to children? Teacher Feng wasn't the only one who felt that way. The students from the medicine faculty also snickered when they heard it. Not only was Yin Shun useless, his teacher even turned out to be crazy. It was beyond amusing. Okay, Yin Shun agreed without feeling angry at all. However, Yi Qingtang noticed Teacher Feng's sarcasm and disdain for Yin Shun. Am I right to say that the elixirs refined by me have nothing to do with the medicine faculty? Yi Qingtang suddenly asked. Teacher Feng looked at Yi Qing as though he was looking at an idiot. Of course, if you prepare your own herbs, the results certainly have nothing to do with the medicine faculty. With that being said, if you damage anything in the alchemy lab, you'll have to compensate, Teacher Feng said. All right. Yi Qingtang nodded and turned around to speak to Yin Shun. Take me to your alchemy lab. Yin Shun was stunned and paused for a moment before he nodded and left with everyone to head towards the alchemy lab. Teacher Feng and the youths from the medicine faculty watched them leave, their gazes filled with disdain. Nonsense, Teacher Feng lamented. He wasn't approving of this teacher, Yihu just disregarded rules. The medicine faculty was different from other faculties, and they had a relatively fixed set of teachers. Why did he come and cause trouble even when he didn't belong to the medicine faculty? To think that the youth even wanted to refine elixirs. Lei Yin and the others ran behind Yi Qing and Yin Shun. Lei Yin couldn't help but ask, Boss, are you really going to refine elixirs? What else would I do? Yi Qingtang replied. Lei Yin, I can't tell it all. Boss, please stop joking around. Chapter 2187. Alchemy 2. Teacher Yi, you don't need to do that for me. My success rate is indeed not high. I guess I'm not suitable to become an alchemist after all. Yin Shun thought that Yi Qing mentioned he knew how to refine elixirs all because of him. After all, no one would believe that Yi Qing knew how to refine elixirs. It has nothing to do with you. I want to refine elixirs. Yi Qingtang didn't know how to react. Why didn't they believe her? Originally, Yi Qingtang had planned to repay the medicine faculty with some high-quality elixirs if they let her use an alchemy lab. But now, it seemed like there was no need for her to do that. Although Yi Qingtang wasn't a true alchemist, with 300 years of experience from her past lifetime, she learned almost everything, including things that she shouldn't have learned. Back then, when she was chased after by Yi Yu and the others, how could she possibly afford to purchase elixirs? The only solution was for her to refine elixirs herself. She could safely say that she was better than most alchemists in this century. After all, her 300 years' worth of experience was to be reckoned with. However, Yin Shun and the others didn't feel too good about it, even when Yi Qingtang was filled with confidence. But they didn't dare say anything to ruin their teacher's confidence. Brother, why is Boss being crazy again? I'm not worried about the herbs, since I can buy them if Boss can't afford them. I'm more worried about those processes. I just got a headache from looking at it once. If he's going to just do it and ruin everything, what's going to happen to Yin Shun? Lei Yin started whispering to Nangong Lai. The alchemy lab belonged to Yin Shun, and his success rate wasn't that high to begin with. If Yi Qing were to join and further create a mess, Yin Shun would be expelled from the academy when he doesn't pass the medicine faculty's assessment next month. Nangong Lai had no idea what was going on, and he could only whisper to Yin Shun, "Have you thought it through?" Yin Shun smiled. "Since Teacher Yi wants to do it, they'll just let him be. Anyway, I won't be able to stay here any longer regardless." Yin Shun was clear that his body made it impossible for him to achieve higher heights in martial arts, while the drifting cloud bloodline made it impossible for him to be a true alchemist. The only reason he stayed on was because he thought that Yi Qing was different from other teachers and he wanted to have it easier during his remaining time at the academy. Nangong Lai's lips twitched, but he ended up not saying anything. He just patted Yin Shun on the shoulder. "Senior sister, do you want to help and persuade Boss? Don't do this to Yin Shun." Lei Yin made his way to Mu Xing, calling her senior sister even when she was only at his chest level. Everyone knew that Yi Qing doted on Mu Xing the most and favored girls much more than boys. Mu Xing lifted her head, looking at Lei Yin without any emotions. "You're doubting Boss." Mu Xing suddenly frowned. "Lei Yin." Mu Xing moved her fingers, and her puppet suddenly jumped onto Lei Yin's shoulder, and its hands were on Lei Yin's neck. "If you continue doubting Boss, they'll strangle you to death." Mu Xing's eyes crinkled, and the puppet suddenly tightened its grip over Lei Yin's neck. Lei Yin was stunned, and he quickly put his hands over his neck to protect himself. When did you become so good at controlling the puppet? The puppet moved so quickly, not even sparing him any time to react. Chapter 2188. Alchemy 3. Hadn't Mu Xing been struggling to even move the puppet an inch before? What had happened? Now she could even make the puppet attack. Mu Xing glanced at Lei Yin. With a curl of her finger, she summoned the puppet back. Lei Yin clutched at his throat in shock. He could still feel a slight, prickly pain where the puppet touched him. He really couldn't tell. Was Mu Xing that convinced by Boss? He couldn't even express any doubts. "I say, little senior sister, please clear your muddled brain. As much as you worship Boss, please have some sense. How in the world would Boss know how to refine medicine?" Just as the few teenagers were muttering amongst themselves, Yin Shun led them to his alchemy lab. The group was speechless at the sight of the small, dilapidated room. Even though they didn't know much about the medicine faculty, they could tell that this was definitely the lousiest lab in the entire faculty. Come in. Yinshin opened the door. All sorts of medicinal ingredients were scattered on the floor of the small lab. The cooled-down tripod was filled with charred black ashes. The smell of burnt herbs permeated the entire room. Yi Qingtang, feeling somewhat awkward, Yinshin swept the medicinal ingredients on the floor to the side. Teacher Yi, my success rate at cultivating medicines is very low. So, I have not had the chance to clean this tripod. Apart from those scattered medicinal herbs and failed elixirs, Lei Yin and the rest discovered a bottle of completed elixirs. You refined this? Not bad. To lessen Yun Chen's embarrassment, Nangong Lai took up the bottle with a smile. He opened the bottle. Yin Chen wanted to stop him, but didn't manage to in time. The moment Nangong Lai opened the bottle, an indescribable smell spread across the small room. That smell, Lei Yin nearly threw up in disgust, while Nangong Lai's face turned green. Yin Chen, what do you have inside here? Yin Chen cleared his throat softly. Cypress elixir. Cypress elixirs were a type of medicine that could enhance one's vital essence. One of their special characteristics was their exceptionally fragrant smell. Nangong Lai. He had been blind to Yun Chen's talents. He never knew that Yun Chen had the ability to create such a heaven-defying, aberrant elixir. How is this a cypress elixir? Even the 100 poison elixir probably had a better smell than this. Nangong Lai quietly closed the bottle and retreated to the side. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang scanned the alchemy lab. Compared to her medicine cultivation environment in the wilderness in her previous life, this place was much better. Yin Shun, stay here. The rest of you go back and cultivate, Yi Qingtang instructed. Lei Yin and the rest didn't dare to object. They obediently went back to practice. Before leaving, they all shot Yin Shun a take-care look. Yin Shun, what herbs do you have here? Yi Qingtang asked. Yin Shun immediately listed them out. The medicine faculty provided an ample supply of medicinal herbs, so much so that the other students would never be able to use up their store. But for Yin Shun, who was very adept at destroying elixirs, it was not enough. As Yi Qingtang listened to Yin Shun, she knew that the scant herbs that he had on hand were far from enough. She didn't waste any words, but just wrote down a list of medicinal herbs. She then took an empty space ring and handed it to Yin Shun. Bring me back all the medicinal herbs on this list. Yin Shun took the list and the space ring. He scanned the list, and his heart nearly leaped out of his chest. Teacher Yi, all these, you need them all? Yin Shun was from a medicine faculty and had seen his fair share of herbs. But for the herbs which Yi Qing had listed, some of them he had only heard of before. Chapter 2189. Stop joking, 1. Yes, go and buy them now. Yi Qing waved him off before starting to clean up the tripod, which was filled with failed elixirs. Yin Shen looked dubious, but since Yi Qing had given the instructions, he had no choice but to comply. While Yin Shen was off getting the herbs, Yi Qingtang soon cleaned up the tripod. Compared to her previous life, when she had to hide and could only make use of a basic tripod in the wilderness to refine elixirs, this low-grade alchemy lab was already considered a luxury. Yi Qingtang estimated that it would be a period of time before Yin Shun would return. She strolled around the alchemy lab and swept up all the medicinal herbs on the floor. It had been a long time since Yi Qingtang had personally refined elixirs. While in the first domain, she never had a day when she could settle down enough to do so. Looking at the sparse medicinal herbs she had on hand now, Yi Qingtang glanced at the alchemy book laid open on the table. Cypress elixir. Yi Qingtang scanned the page and immediately knew that it contained the recipe for refining cypress elixirs. Cypress elixirs were considered mid-grade elixirs and were often sold at auctions. It was not considered a rare elixir. Yi Qingtang looked at the cypress elixir recipe and then at Yun Chen's bottle of cypress elixir. It looked like she had underestimated the impact of Yun Chen's bloodline. To be able to refine a cypress elixir like this was indeed a rare skill. Since it would be some time before Yin Chen would return, Yi Qingtang tidied up the medicinal herbs and prepared to warm up her own skills. Yin Chen had already gotten most of the herbs needed by Yi Qing, but some rare herbs could not be found on such short notice. Yin Shun placed orders for those herbs before bringing back a fully packed space ring back to the alchemy lab. He pushed open the door. The temperature inside the alchemy lab was already much higher than the outside. A fragrant smell spread out together with the heat. Yin Shun immediately recognized the smell. Cypress elixir? Yin Shun was taken aback. He was very familiar with this smell. This was the fragrance of the cypress elixir. Yin Shun might not be able to cultivate a real cypress elixir, but this was a frequent scent produced by the other medicine faculty students. For the cypress elixir, the more crisp and fragrant it was, the higher its quality. With just a few sniffs, Yin Shun could already feel his mind becoming much clearer. Where was this smell coming from? Yin Shun was confused. Scanning the room, he realized that his tripod, which was previously filled with ashes, was now burning with a vigorous fire. A completed elixir was upon the roaring flame. Roasted by the fire, the fragrance of the elixir filled the entire lab. Was that the cypress elixir? Yin Shun stared in astonishment at the tripod. He just kept staring at the sweet-smelling elixir in the tripod. Although he had smelled many cypress elixirs before, none of them could compare to this. Even the cypress elixirs cultivated by the medicine faculty teachers during their demonstrations were not as fragrant as this. Where did this cypress elixir come from? Could it be? A startling notion surfaced in Yun Chen's mind, but he immediately quelled it the moment it appeared. He had not been away for that long. Yi Qing could not possibly have cultivated this. Yin Shun was well aware that even a medicine faculty teacher would need at least one full day to refine a cypress elixir, and he had been away for less than half a day. Chapter 2190. Stop Joking 2. Also, he would never believe that Yi Qing could really refine elixirs. Maybe Teacher Yi placed an already completed elixir in the tripod. Yin Chen muttered to himself. This surmisation might be far-fetched, but it was still far more believable than the fact that Yi Qing could refine elixirs. Yin Shun, what are you standing there for? Yi Qing Tang walked in. She had just gone to fetch some water and returned to see Yin Shun standing at the door in a daze. Yin Shun jumped at the sound of Yi Qing's voice. Teacher Yi, Yi Qing Tang said, did you bring back all the medicinal herbs I require? Yin Shun composed himself and replied, I have brought back most of them, but I am missing a few and would need a few days before. Yin Shun took out the newly filled space ring and gave it to Yi Qing. Yi Qing Tang scanned the items inside the ring. Although there were a few of the rarer ingredients missing, it didn't matter. She wouldn't need those ingredients for the time being. They were just there as a backup. Taking out a few herbs from the space ring, Yi Qing Tang instructed Yin Shun, the cypress elixir is about done. Go and take it out. Taken aback, Yin Shun suddenly remembered about the cypress elixir. He opened his mouth to say something, but didn't know how to ask the question. In the end, he just wanted to take out the cypress elixir. After retrieving the cypress elixir, Yin Shun realized that the quality of this elixir was even better than he first imagined. Warmth and fragrance swirled around the small pill. The scent was exceptionally refreshing. The cypress elixir might just be a mid-grade elixir, but only alchemists themselves knew just how much the quality of such an elixir could differ. While it was the same type of elixir, but the difference in quality from one pill to the next could be as wide as heaven and earth. A top-grade pill was worth more than 100 normal-grade pills. Yin Shun carefully placed the cypress elixir into an exquisite bottle. If Yin Shun had doubted whether Yi Qing had refined this elixir, he no longer had any doubts now. He couldn't have possibly produced this. Even a medicine faculty head might not be able to refine a cypress elixir of this level. It should be pointed out that the medicine faculty head was a master-level alchemist. But at the very most, he could only refine mid-grade elixirs to a quality level of 90%. It was nearly impossible to achieve the peak 100% stage. When refining elixirs, the slightest variant to the intensity of the fire, the number of ingredients used, as well as the duration of the cultivation, could result in major differences. To achieve the peak 100% perfect quality, apart from that Grandmaster Alchemist, no one else would be able to perform such a feat. Teacher Yi, Where did you get this cypress elixir? I wonder which Grandmaster alchemist cultivated this. At this moment, Yinshan was already convinced that Yi Qing had definitely not produced this cypress elixir. He believed that Yi Qing had just placed this already completed pill in the tripod out of curiosity. Placing a completed elixir into a tripod for a short period of time would not produce any sort of changes. As an alchemist himself, Yinshan desperately wished to know which Grandmaster alchemist cultivated this cypress elixir. He wondered if Teacher Yi was acquainted with that person. Yi Qingtang lifted her head and stared at Yinshan with a puzzled look in her eyes. Chapter 2191. Stop Joking 3. Feeling Yi Qing's gaze, Yinshan suddenly snapped out of his trance. He lowered his eyelids with a hint of awkwardness. Damn, he had been too impulsive. He didn't realize it would embarrass Teacher Yi. Yi Qingtang continued to look at Yinshan and the sudden changes in his expressions. She had no idea what this kid was thinking and just continued to go about her task. You don't have enough medicinal herbs here. I could only gather what was here and only managed to cultivate one cypress elixir. Yinshan suddenly lifted his eyes and stared at Yi Qing incredulously. At this moment, Yinshan finally realized that the medicinal herbs which had been scattered on the floor had all been gathered up and arranged on the table. Yinshan always had a good idea of just how many herbs he had on hand. With one glance, he could tell that he was missing the exact proportion of ingredients to make a cypress elixir. Yinshan gaped. For a long while, he remained in a speechless daze. Teacher Yi had cultivated this cypress elixir? How was that possible? Yinshan was filled with doubts. But it wouldn't be appropriate for him to voice them out to Yi Qing, and so he just nodded and let it pass. Never mind. If Teacher Yi wanted to keep up this facade, he would not expose him. Your bloodline affects your cultivation of medicines. But you should have no problem preparing the ingredients, right? Yi Qing suddenly asked. Yinshan nodded. Yi Qing took out a few medicinal herbs and passed them to Yinshan. Prepare these. Yinshan accepted the herbs and couldn't help giving a soft sigh. Teacher Yi probably didn't even know how to prepare medicinal herbs. That was why he had found an excuse for him to do it. The missing portions of ingredients for the cypress elixir, he had probably ruined them. He was probably worried about losing face, and so placed a completed elixir on the tripod. Nevertheless, even if Teacher Yi wanted to pretend, he shouldn't have used a Grand Master-level cypress elixir. Yinshan sighed in resignation and started to prepare the herbs. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang stood by the side, observing how Yinshan prepared the herbs. It must be said that although his success rate at refining medicines was poor, Yinshan had invested a lot of time and effort in trying. As a result, he was extremely adept at preparing the medicinal ingredients. He was also very meticulous. Even Yi Qingtang was able to feel it in his actions. Before long, Yinshan had finished prepping all the herbs. He truly had no idea why Yi Qing would suddenly wish to refine elixirs. He just resigned himself to assisting him. Yi Qingtang arranged the prepped ingredients. Yinshan cleared his throat softly. Teacher Yi, is there anything else? If not, may I leave first? Yinshan spoke up tentatively. The words made Yi Qingtang frown. Leave. If you want to be an alchemist, you must stand by and observe when someone else is refining elixirs. It is how you will learn. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Stand there and observe carefully. Yinshan, was Teacher Yi sure about this? Yinshan was only doing this for Teacher Yi's own good. With Yinshan standing here, Teacher Yi wouldn't get a chance to swap in an already completed pill. Yinshan felt exasperated, but since Yi Qing had instructed so, he could not just leave at will. He had no choice but to stand there with a sigh. Yi Qingtang had no idea what Yinshan was thinking. She was fully focused on the ingredients gathered before her. With a practiced hand, she picked up a few from each pile. Yinshan's brow furrowed deeper as he watched. The herbs which Yi Qingtang had picked possessed characteristics which clashed with each other. It would be impossible to refine them together. If these herbs were forcibly refined together, not only would it fail to become an elixir, it might probably end up being a lethal poison. Chapter 2192. Incredible. 1. This teacher Yi. Was he joking? Several times, Yin Shan wanted to advise him against his actions, but was put off by a warning glance each time. Yin Shan was so dismayed that even his usually pale face looked a bit flushed now. He watched as Yi Qing gathered the exact amount of herbs as prescribed, before opening the tripod and placing the ingredients inside. Yin Shan, as he didn't have a high success rate at refining elixirs, and because he had more experience trying to refine than the usual student, Yin Shan had read quite a number of ancient books to improve his skills. Consequently, he had a rather comprehensive understanding of herbs. Something bad would definitely happen with what Yi Qing was doing. As expected, a muffled sound erupted from the tripod the moment the fire was lit. Soon enough, a stream of smoke spread out from the tripod. Yin Shan's face changed. At the side, Yi Qingtang appeared completely nonchalant. Teacher Yi, these herbs, Yin Shan was about to warn Yi Qing. Calm suddenly descended over the smoke-covered tripod, and the smoke in the room suddenly emitted a clean fragrance. Yin Shan, what about these herbs? Yi Qingtang was focused on the tripod and wasn't paying much attention to Yin Shan's words. For a moment there, Yin Shan had no idea what to say. Luckily, nothing catastrophic had happened. Time passed by the minute and second. Yi Qing didn't stay beside the tripod, but went to gather a few more portions of herbs to prepare for the next batch. Looking at Yi Qing's busy figure and then at the temporarily calm tripod, Yin Shan was feeling all anxious inside. As night fell, the fire in the tripod finally subsided. Yi Qingtang saw that the time was about right and opened the tripod. Several pitch-black elixirs were laid out quietly inside. Just going by the color, one could tell they were poisonous pills. Yi Qingtang took them out and examined them. Delight flashed across her eyes. She still had it. Her skills were still well and intact. Yin Shan felt rather conflicted as he observed Yi Qingtang's satisfied expression. Before he could react further, Yi Qingtang suddenly turned and presented one of the black pills to Yin Shan. Eat it. Yin Shan's jaw dropped to the floor. Eat it. Teacher Yi, what did you say? The hairs on the back of Yin Shan's neck were all standing on end. I asked you to eat it, Yi Qingtang repeated. Yin Shan, when did he offend her? Teacher Yi, this pill. Yin Shan tried to resist. But the moment Yin Shan opened his mouth to speak, Yi Qingtang took the opportunity to toss the pill inside his mouth and smacked him on the chest. Gulp. Yin Shan inadvertently swallowed the pitch-black pill. Yin Shan, he was doomed. How is it? Yi Qing looked at Yin Shan closely. Yin Shan just felt a bitter taste spread across his throat. For a moment there were no other terrible side effects yet. Just as he was quietly relieved, he suddenly felt a surge of heat flowing out of his dantian. In just a few breaths' time, Yin Shan felt hot all over. His usually pale face was flushed red by his high temperature. Within seconds, Yin Shan's internal energy was suppressed by this heat flow. His expression underwent a major shift. My bloodline. Yin Shan widened his eyes at Yi Qingtang as anger flashed across his face. Chapter 2193. Incredible 2. Teacher Yi, what did I ever do to you? Why did you destroy my bloodline? Yin Shan was truly enraged. If Yi Qing wanted to mess around, he could play along with him. But how could he force him to take this randomly cultivated elixir? His drifting cloud bloodline was subdued within seconds. Was Teacher Yi trying to kill him? Yi Qing was calm in the face of Yin Shan's anger. Your bloodline has been subdued? Yi Qing asked. Yin Shan gritted his teeth. Yes. Very good. Yi Qing nodded. Yin Shan nearly spat out blood in rage. Come here. These are the ingredients for the cypress elixir. Try and refine one now. Before Yin Shan could react, Yi Qing placed the prepped ingredients into Yin Shan's hands. Yin Shan was already blinded by rage. Would he still be willing to follow this crazy teacher's instructions? Destroying one's bloodline was like crushing one's martial arts future. Teacher Yi, Yin Shan. Yi Qing and Yin Shan spoke at the same time. The youth shot him a very stern look, and the rest of Yin Shan's words got stuck in his throat. Go and refine the pill now. Yi Qing insisted. Yunshin took a deep breath as he struggled to contain his anger. Just do as I say. I will naturally restore your bloodline. Yi Qing added. Yunshin narrowed his eyes at Yi Qing. He could understand why Yi Qing was doing this to him. He had never offended him before, but he conjured some weird pill at random and destroyed his bloodline. Just as Yunshan was about to walk off, a bitter amusement filled his heart. Even if his bloodline was present, with his physical condition, he would never be able to continue practicing martial arts. Destroyed or not, it made no difference to him. It was just that Yi Qing's request was just too ridiculous. Teacher Yi, I refuse. Yunshin put in a lot of effort to finally calm himself down. He was not willing to continue playing along with Yi Qing. He turned to leave. Yi Qing gave an inward sigh on seeing Yunshin storm off in anger. Never mind. She couldn't blame this kid for not believing her. With a sudden leap, Yi Qing landed beside Yunshin. Before he could react, she used her fingers to jab at several pressure points on his chest. Shocked, Yunshin was prepared to retaliate when he felt that his suppressed bloodline had suddenly been restored. Yunshin was dumbstruck. What was going on? Kid, you wasted one of my suppression elixirs. You deserve a scolding. One glance at Yunshin's expression, and Yi Qing could tell his bloodline had been restored. Yunshin was still in a daze. He tried to circulate his bloodline and realized that everything was back to normal. It was as if having his bloodline suppressed had just been a nightmare. You found it difficult to improve your elixir refining skills because of your drifting cloud bloodline. I cultivated these pills called suppression elixirs, and they can temporarily seal off your bloodline. In this way, you won't be affected by your bloodline. And the way to restore your bloodline is very simple. You just need to activate those pressure points like I did earlier. That would allow the effects of the elixir to be released from your body. Yi Qing patiently explained. Yunshin was completely stupefied. Suppression elixir? What in the world was that? He had never heard of that before. Yi Qing's so-called suppression elixir sounded completely outrageous. Yunshin had never even heard of any medicine that could seal off one's bloodline. Chapter 2194. Incredible 3. But having personally experienced this, Yunshin knew very well the effects of this elixir. Teacher Yi, how about it? Take another pill, and then go and try to refine an elixir? Yi Qing looked at Yunshin. In the drop of a hat, Yunshin's expression turned from rage to shock. Previously, Yunshin would never have believed that Yi Qing knew how to cultivate elixirs. But now, the effects of this pill had shattered Yunshin's worldview on elixirs. Teacher Yi, do you really know how to refine elixirs? Yunshin asked. If I didn't, how could I have produced this? Yi Qing was amused. Yunshin quietly swallowed. He found all that had happened very hard to digest. So, you really refined that cypress elixir? Yi Qing felt like laughing at Yunshin's query. She didn't reply immediately, but just went to the table and swiftly selected the ingredients for the cypress elixir. She placed them in the tripod and with one hand ignited a black flame and infused it into the tripod. The cultivation of the herbs progressed rapidly. All this happened right in front of Yunshin's eyes. Every single one of Yi Qing's movements was imprinted in his mind. He had repeated this process umpteenth times over the month, but when Yi Qing performed it, everything suddenly appeared exceptionally simple. After a short period of time, the fragrance of the cypress elixir emanated from the tripod. Yi Qing took out the cypress elixir and placed it directly in Yunshin's hands. Not wanting to waste time, she had made use of her black flame to speed up the refinement of this elixir. To have the confidence to do that, Yi Qing must have a certain level of mastery over the refinement of elixirs. As Yunshin looked at the cypress elixir in his hands, he saw that it was identical to the one before. A gasp burst from his lips. He could hardly believe what he just witnessed. Teacher Yi knew how to cultivate medicine. Furthermore, the quality of this elixir was extraordinary. Convinced now, Yi Qing smiled. Yunshin nodded in a daze. He was feeling rather surreal. At this moment, Yunshin remembered all his doubts about Yi Qing, and he felt like slapping himself to death. He had personally experienced the feeling of failing to recognize a formidable person. Teacher Yi, stop standing there in a daze. These suppression elixirs are for you. It's late now, and I'm going back to rest. If you still have the energy, practice on your own. Yi Qingtang stretched her limbs. Today's suppression elixirs were just a warm-up for her. There were a whole bunch of elixirs she would need to refine tomorrow. Actually, no wonder Yun Chun didn't believe her. Yi Qingtang herself wouldn't believe in something like a suppression elixir if she hadn't seen it 300 years into the future. In addition, a teacher like her was truly not that convincing. After Yi Qingtang finished giving her instructions, she turned and left. Yun Shin stared after Yi Qing's departing profile in a daze. The elixirs in his hand were still warm, and he finally snapped out of his trance. He instinctively clenched his fists, as if he was clutching onto his final piece of hope. He was wrong about Teacher Yi. Teacher Yi came to cultivate elixirs purely to resolve his dilemma, to help him find a way to continue refining medicine. But Yin Chun, felt very distressed. But he also knew that he couldn't waste Yi Qing's efforts. The fire of determination lit up in Yun Chen's eyes. Without further hesitation, he swallowed one suppression elixir and felt his bloodline subdued. Thereafter, he threw himself into the process of cultivating medicines with a fervor that had been lost for as long as he could remember. Chapter 2195. Can I reject? 1. The next morning, Jing Zhe and the others came to the classroom to await Yi Qing's arrival. But to their surprise, Yi Qing was nowhere to be seen even after they waited for an entire afternoon. Yin Shin also did not show up. Don't tell me that boss is still at the alchemy lab. Why does he need to go there to refine elixirs? Lei Yin was puzzled. Perhaps boss knows that with his current cultivation level, it would be too difficult for him to progress any further. And so he wants to change his occupation? Nan Gonglai stroked his chin as he guessed. Their boss appeared to be a few years older than them, but his powers were not that great. In Nan Gonglai's opinion, Yi Qing would probably never be able to attain the Paragon level. This kind of power in the second domain was not outstanding at all. When Yi Qing failed to appear after they waited for the whole afternoon, they all went about their own cultivation. After all, they had to show their boss some support and try not to affect his confidence. The few of them believed that Yi Qing would give up after a couple of days. As a result, they didn't mind. Apart from Qin Feng's diligent gardening, the others went about their own cultivation. But 4 to 5 days passed, and they still saw no sign of Yi Qing. By then, the group of kids could no longer sit still. They snuck into the medicine faculty and came to Yun Chen's alchemy lab. Just as they were hesitating over who should knock on the door, Yun Chun came out carrying a stack of boxes. He looked puzzled at the sight of the restless teenagers. Why are you guys here? They immediately surrounded Yun Chun. Yun Chun, what have you and boss been doing the past few days? What are you carrying? Nan Gonglai started to ask when his attention was attracted by those boxes in Yun Chen's arms. Some medicinal herbs, Yun Chen replied. Don't you have a space ring? Why are you carrying them like this? Nan Gonglai was puzzled. Yin Chen chuckled. These medicinal herbs are very precious. They would lose their medicinal potency if I put them in the space ring. Boss asked for these? Lei Yin asked cautiously. Yin Chen nodded. The group exchanged looks. They thought Yi Qing would stop this nonsense after a few days. But their teacher was still asking for more ingredients. Their teacher was going all out to refine elixirs. Previously, the abilities of Lei Yin and the rest had significantly improved under Yi Qing's guidance. Over the past few days, as they cultivated on their own, they had encountered some problems but didn't dare to disturb Yi Qing. Unable to wait any longer, they had no choice but to come here. I say, Yin Chun, go and persuade boss. It's too late for him to start learning about medicine cultivation now, Nan Gonglai urged. Lei Yin also nodded. That's right. Why does boss insist on doing this? If he is able to groom me to greater heights, he can rely on the backing of my Leitang family in the future. There's no need for him to put in so much effort in this. Rather than wasting his time, he should teach me a few more moves. A waste of time. Dumbfounded, Yun-Shin stared at Lei Yin and the rest, the corners of his lips twitching. A waste of time? They were the ones who were wasting their time. Lei Yin and the rest were so wily. They didn't dare to approach Yi Qing themselves, and so they were trying to make him go and persuade Yi Qing instead. Yin-Shun, even if you don't care about us, you need to think for your own good. With Boss using your alchemy lab now, when else will you get the time to cultivate elixirs? Nangong Lai continued his urging. Chapter 2196. Can I reject too? Also, the medicine faculty's monthly assessment is coming up, right? If you don't hurry, and Nangong Lai didn't complete his sentence. His meaning was clear. Yin-Shin had a peculiar expression on his face. It is my honor that Teacher Yi is willing to use my alchemy lab. Nangong Lai and Lei Yin were completely stunned by Yun-Shen's words. Nangong Lai, damn, this guy's even better at bootlicking than me? Lei Yin, damn, this Yin-Shen is even better at bootlicking than Nangong Lai? Observing the reactions of the group, Yin-Shan was trying to find a way to explain the situation when the lab doors were suddenly thrown open. Standing in the doorway, Yi Qing immediately noticed Yin-Shan and his armful of boxes. Yin-Shan, hurry up and bring the herbs inside. She needed them urgently. Yin-Shan snapped out of his trance. There was no time to explain now. He just ran into the lab with his boxes of precious medicinal ingredients. After watching Yin-Shan enter the alchemy lab, Yi Qingtang finally noticed the kids standing outside the door. Why are you all here? Yi Qingtang asked. Little senior sister misses you, so we came with her to visit you. Nangong Lai immediately shoved Mu Xing to the front. Mu Xing? Was it too late for her to kill them now? Yi Qingtang didn't think too much and just said, it's perfect timing that you guys are here. I've just completed refining your elixirs. Come in. With that, Yi Qing turned back into the alchemy lab. Different expressions flashed across the faces of the group when they heard that Yi Qing had refined some elixirs for them. Jing Zhe and Mu Xing looked very grateful. They believed that Boss was indeed super nice to them, still thinking about them even during this period. On the contrary, Nangong Lai and Lei Yin appeared very conflicted. Boss refine elixirs for us? Nangong Lai glanced at Lei Yin. Lei Yin swallowed hard. If we take them, we won't die, right? Meanwhile, Jing Zhe and Mu Xing had already entered the lab. Nangong Lai frowned at the unexpected turn of events. He clutched his stomach. My stomach suddenly hurts. I need to go to the toilet. He turned to flee. But before he could take more than a couple of steps, Lei Yin wrapped one arm around his neck and dragged him into the alchemy lab. Brother, we already made a pact that we would go through thick and thin together. You cannot just leave me behind. Lei Yin took a deep breath. Lei Yin might be a bit more stupid compared to Nangong Lai's slyness, but he was also a bit more loyal. He believed that Yi Qing's elixirs were probably no different from poison. But looking at how Yi Qing had helped them, Lei Yin was determined to support her at all costs. It was just taking poison. He had quite a number of elixirs in his space ring. At the very most, he could just go back and eat some and neutralize the effects. Stop. Brother, let's talk things through. Nangong Lai struggled, but was still dragged into the lab by Lei Yin. Flames swirled within the tripod inside the alchemy lab. The entire lab was filled with the intense smell of herbs. It was slightly bitter, but not at all pungent. The interior of the lab was not as chaotic as Lei Yin and the rest expected. It was much cleaner than when they first saw it. All the medicinal herbs had been sorted out into different containers. On the table, there were also batches of prepped ingredients and several white porcelain bottles. Chapter 2197. Can I reject? 3. Yi Qingtang had Yin Shun put away the newly acquired herbs. She then took up the bottles of elixirs on the table and handed them to Mu Xing and the others. This is the Phoenix elixir and is best for nourishing mental energy. Xing, since you're going to be a puppet master, you need to strengthen your mental energy to become even stronger than the usual self. Yi Qing pointed at the white porcelain bottle in Mu Xing's hands. Mu Xing's eyes lit up. Her little face was filled with excitement, and she looked at Yi Qing with eyes filled with gratitude. After learning the spirit control line under Yi Qingtang, Mu Ziying could already control her puppet to do whatever she wanted. But after some time, she would feel fatigued. It was probably due to her lack of mental energy. Then Yi Qing turned toward Jing Zhe. Your bloodline was just awakened, so I prepared this dark elixir for you. This pill can nourish bloodlines, and it is exactly what you need now. Jing Zhe clutched the bottle of dark elixir tightly, looking very touched. Bowing respectfully, he thanked Yi Qing with a trembling voice. Thank you, boss. After his bloodline was awakened, Jing Zhe's bleak future was finally looking up. However, perhaps his bloodline had been dormant for too long. Jing Zhe was unable to exercise full control of it. He was frequently unable to perform as he wanted, and this slowed down his progress. Mu Ziying and Jing Zhe were thrilled after receiving their elixirs. But Nangong Lai and Lei Yin were a different story. Lei Yin and Nangong Lai were both from great family clans, and so had more access to elixirs than students from common families like Jing Zhe. Nourish bloodline? Is boss having delusions? Lei Yin felt that Yi Qing must have gone mad. They knew of elixirs which could nourish mental energy, but nourish bloodlines? Did boss come up with this innovation on his own? Bloodlines were very miraculous and delicate things. According to what Lei Yin knew about bloodlines, it was impossible to influence them in any way with elixirs. But Yi Qing was in all seriousness pointing at that dark elixir and saying that it could nourish bloodlines. Phoenix elixir, dark elixir. Little Lei, have you heard of them before? Nangong Lai searched his mind, but couldn't find any medicines with such names. Damn you. Call me Little Lei again, and I will kill you. Lei Yin looked very fierce, but on seeing Yi Qingtang heading over their way, his anger immediately subsided. I say, don't tell me boss really managed to produce elixirs just like that. He even gave them names. Heaven knows what the hell he just gave us. Lei Yin felt rather panicked. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qingtang had arrived in front of Lei Yin and Nangong Lai. Lei Yin didn't receive proper instruction from a young age, and so his foundation was much weaker than his peers. Yi Qing prepared the purple gold elixir for him to stabilize his foundation. For Nangong Lai, he was restless and impulsive, which prevented him from focusing on his cultivation. As a result, Yi Qing prepared the sky elixir for him. Yi Qing had refined these elixirs in this alchemy lab over the past few days. Since she wanted them to participate in the Inter Academy competition, it was only natural that she prepared them the best she could. Lei Yin and Nangong Lai had never heard of the purple gold elixir or the sky elixir. They felt that Yi Qing must have gone crazy from all that refining. Chapter 2198. Identity 1. They lowered their heads, looking at the elixirs. Lei Yin gave a surreptitious wink as he wanted Yun Shun to help say something. However, Yun Shun looked at Yi Qing in admiration, as though he idolized her. Darn, another one who had gone crazy. Consume the elixir now and circulate your energy here for a day. Yi Qingtang wasn't sure whether the elixirs were suitable for them or not. She just refined the elixirs according to their individual needs, and she needed to observe them after their consumption. If the elixirs worked for them, she could continue making the same ones for them in the future. Without any hesitation, Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying consumed the elixirs and sat cross-legged. On the other hand, Nangong Lai and Lei Yan's turn looked like they were about to cry. They poured the elixir onto their palms and had a miserable look on their face. Nangong Lai suddenly had an idea. He tried to reuse an old antic by pretending he had a stomach ache. Boss, my stomach is aching. I probably ate something bad. They'll keep this and consume it later. Lei Yin, damn it. You're using the same tactic? Lei Yin showed his contempt while making weird sounds, holding his stomach, and pretending to look ill. Boss, my stomach hurts too. I think that I might have eaten something bad too. Nangong Lai, there wasn't anyone more shameless than him. Yi Qingtang looked at the two brats with raised brows. You ate something bad? Open your mouth. Let me see if you've been poisoned. They opened their mouths, putting on awful expressions. Right when they opened their mouths, Yi Qingtang lifted the hands they used to hold the elixirs. Pow pow! They were slapped by their own hands, and the elixirs also went down their throats. "Does it still hurt?" Yi Qing asked. They shook their heads simultaneously. "Sit cross-legged and circulate your energy now," Yi Qing shouted. With a shudder, they immediately sat on the floor. Jing Zhe and Mu Xing had already started circulating their energy. They closed their eyes, isolating themselves from the rest of the world. Since Nangong Lai and Lei Yin had consumed the elixirs and couldn't throw them up, they could only start cultivating as well. As Yi Qing Tang watched them, for beams of silver light suddenly flew out of her fingertips, connecting to the back of their necks. Yin Shun was stunned. Spirit line. Yin Shun had a weak body. When he was a newborn, he had been determined to not be able to live past 10 years old. To keep him alive, his family searched for the best doctors all over the world, but they were still not able to change his fate. It was only at last his grandfather used his connections to find a sage of medicine to treat him. Yinshin was only 8 at that time. He saw the sage release silver lights into his pressure points all over his body. The spirit line was made from spirit energy. It could detect every little detail in the human body. They needed to compress the spiritual energy until it was as thin as a spider web and have perfect precision. If not, it would cause dire consequences for both parties. The sage used the spirit lines to save him, such that he could survive up until now. Even now, Yun Shun remembered that his grandfather once said there were not more than 5 people who could control the spirit line, and all of them were legendary figures. However, how come Teacher Yi also knew how to use the spirit line? Yun Shin's brows furrowed while he looked at Yi Qing, and he couldn't help but feel suspicious. Who exactly was he? Chapter 2199. Identity 2. Yinshin had thought that Yi Qing was just a teacher with a profound understanding of martial arts at first. But the more interactions he had with the mysterious teacher, the more he was suspicious of his identity. After all, he looked like he was in his 20s at most and didn't look particularly outstanding, but none of the students in the Netherworld Academy could compare to him. Teacher Yi could even produce an elixir purer than the one the president of the medicine faculty could produce. He could also control the spirit lines and knew so much about the 4 of them. There was no way the teacher in front of him was a mere 20-year-old. Martial arts wasn't that difficult to understand, but no matter how evil someone was, it wasn't possible to produce such a pure elixir in such a short time. It wasn't possible even if he had started when he was born. As for the spirit lines, he had heard Sage mention before that one needed to be proficient in medical knowledge and practice for 100 years at least before they could master it. And even so, they had to be extremely careful. However, Yinshin looked at Yi Qing, who was looking at the 4 people relaxedly, and his lips started twitching. Could it be Teacher Yi was a master physician who had already lived for many years, as well as an alchemist grandmaster? It was the only reason he could come up with to explain all of this. If it was true, Teacher Yi's age was way above 20. He could be over 100. His gaze towards him became respectful. Yi Qingtang, who was in truth only 16 years old, had no idea about the change in Yinshin. She had been forced to study alchemy and medicine in her past life, which had given her an air of mystery now, too, but she was unaware of all this. Her attention was focused on her students. Among the 4 of them, Mu Xing's performance made her the most excited. Perhaps it was because she was the youngest, but she could feel the Phoenix elixir having the most obvious and fastest effect on her. Through the spirit lines, Yi Qingtang could feel her mental energy rising rapidly. She wasn't sure if it was just an illusion, but the eyes of the wooden doll in her embrace seemed to shine as Mu Xing's mental energy increased, as though it was coming to life. The second was Nangong Lai. His mind was in such a hurry that he could calm down enough to train, but the sky elixir steadied his heart. He had never immersed himself in his training as much as he did today before. The once lazy him was giving his best shot now, and the improvement was startling. As for Jing Zhe and Lei Yin, their progress was slightly slower. But this was all within her expectations. It was extremely difficult to nourish bloodlines, and even after 300 years, there were only a few elixirs that affected it. As for bone structure, there was no rushing it, only nourishing it day by day and growing stronger slowly. Yi Qingtang recorded their progress one by one. After confirming that there were no concerns, she let go of her spirit line. She had been busy with making the elixirs the past few days, and as a result, her cultivation had slipped. After handing the 4 over to Yunshun, she went back to her room to cultivate. It was too much of a waste of time to teach these children like this. She had to think of a perfect method to improve herself and the children at the same time. Chapter 2200, Identity 3. After a week of cultivation, Lei Yin and the others slowed down, but their progress shocked everyone. Lei Yin had been holding the rescue elixir in his hand all along, but had not used it at all. He felt happiness that he had never felt before after cultivating this time. It was as though the qi and blood that had been stuck in his body were now flowing free. The more he did this, the better he felt. This was something he had never felt before. Boss! After recovering from his initial shock, Lei Yin called for Yi Qing, but he didn't see him as his gaze swept across the alchemy lab. Nangong Lai and the rest had come to their senses as well. Their expressions were similarly awed and surprised. Even Mu Ziying and Jing Zhe, who had already trusted Yi Qingtang, were surprised at how much effect the elixirs that Yi Qing made had on them. Yin Chun, this elixir, was really made by Boss herself. Nangong Lai's eyes were complicated as he looked at Yin Chun. He was from the Shi family after all, and had seen and taken many elixirs in his life. But he had never come across an elixir as good as this one before. It seemed that Yin Chun had already expected their reactions. Handling the herbs by his side, he said, "I was with Boss as he was refining the elixirs. I was also the one who accompanied him when he went to find the herbs for the elixirs." He had subconsciously started calling him Boss as well. Nangong Lai understood Yin Chun and knew that he wouldn't lie about something like this. The students were hit by a wave of emotion. How exciting was this piece of information? Yin Chun, you're from the medical faculty and know a lot about elixirs. How are the elixirs made by Boss? Lei Yin asked curiously. Yin Chun thought for a moment before saying, "I've never heard of those elixirs before, so I can't gauge them at all, but he made the cypress elixir as a warm-up before, and if I were to go by that," he paused before continuing, "I don't think anyone else in the Netherworld Academy could do better than him." His evaluation made them all gasp. Even though the Netherworld Academy didn't have many Grandmaster alchemists, there were still many skilled alchemists there. But with that, Yun Shin said, didn't it mean that Yi Qing's skills were better than all of them? My God, I've really picked up something precious this time. This won't do. How could I have suspected the elixir that Boss made? I have to beg him for forgiveness. Lei Yin wanted to slap himself as he thought the doubt he had previously. The other hadn't expected the teacher that they were stuck with as a last resort would give them such a pleasant surprise. Not only in martial arts, but his way with the sword and elixirs all shook them to the core. Where is Boss from? How does he know so much? Nangong Lai was taken aback as well. Regardless of where he is from, as long as he is willing to guide me, I will not be ungrateful. Chapter 2201, Accusations 1. Yun Chen's words made them nod. Ungrateful? Don't joke around. They were on the verge of offering themselves to him. Just thinking about how lowly they were in the Netherworld Academy before, and how Yi Qing had tried the best for every single one of them was enough to move them thoroughly. Moreover, their dedicated teacher was not only well-versed in martial arts, but was also an extremely capable alchemist. Where else could they find someone like this? The teenagers who had been ready to give up and finally been offered a ray of light. The same teacher who had suddenly appeared in front of them was like a lamp, illuminating their dark future. Yi Qingtang had no idea about all the thoughts that were running through Lei Yin and her other students' minds. She had wasted a few days making the elixirs and was hard at work cultivating herself. She had planned to shut herself in for a few days before returning to the classroom, but some people weren't allowing her to do so. Early next morning, she was called to the vice president's room. The kind-looking vice president was seated behind his table. There were a few teachers in the room apart from him. In addition to teacher Luo, who had brought Yi Qingtang to the Netherworld Academy, Teacher Dinua from the martial arts faculty, as well as another person wearing the clothes of the medicine faculty. As soon as Yi Qingtang saw their postures, she knew that nothing good would come out of this. Vice President. Yi Qingtang remained calm and greeted the Vice President politely. The Vice President looked at the slim young youth in front of him. Frowning, he sighed with a helpless expression and said, Teacher Yi, this is Teacher Dinua from the martial arts faculty, whom you've met before. This is Teacher Luo from the medicine faculty. She nodded slightly to these two people, but they stared at her frostily. I called you here today, as these two teachers told me that you were fooling around in their faculties. Do you have anything to say about that? The Vice President said slowly. Fooling around? I'm not sure why they would say that, she said. Teacher Dinua's eyes narrowed, and he said, Teacher Yi, what a good memory you have. Have you already forgotten how you urged your students to use violence in my faculty? Yi Qingtang looked at him lightly. She hadn't expected him to tattle to the Vice President about what happened a few days ago. Teacher Dinua, let me remind you that what happened was in the martial arts arena. Even though I've just entered the academy, I know that the martial arts arena is where the students can exchange blows with each other. Is this not the case? Exchange blows with each other? Even if that was the case, there's a limit. What did you teach Jing Zhe to the point that it damaged Zhang Kiki's bloodline? Teacher Dinua said coldly. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Zhang Kiki's bloodline had been damaged. No wonder he was making a fuss now. There were no problems with students exchanging blows with each other, but Jing Zhe's blow in the arena was wrong. It was no small matter if he had damaged someone's bloodline. Bloodlines were extremely important. Once they were damaged, it was difficult to recuperate even with modern medical skills. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.